I never thought the woman who gave birth to me could be so cruel, but finding my 8-year-old son crying on our front porch because my own mother told him, "You're homeless now," broke something inside of me permanently. When I first heard those words come out of his trembling mouth, looking at his tear-streaked face and his tiny hands clutching his favorite stuffed animal, a cold, dead calm washed over me, and all I could say to her was a simple, quiet, "Okay." She thought that "okay" meant I was defeated, that she had finally won her lifelong power struggle against me, and that I was going to beg for her mercy on my knees. She had no idea that my compliance was actually the first step in a calculated plan that would completely dismantle her comfortable, arrogant life within a matter of days. I want to ask you right now, before you hear the rest of this, was I wrong for taking things as far as I did? Or would you have done the exact same thing to protect your child from a monster? To understand how we got to that horrific afternoon on the porch, you have to understand the dynamic between my mother, Eleanor, and me. Eleanor has always been a woman obsessed with control, status, and appearance. Growing up, I wasn't a daughter to her. I was an accessory, a possession meant to reflect well on her. When I didn't marry the wealthy country club type she picked out for me, and instead married an honest, hard-working contractor named David, she essentially treated me like I was dead to her. David and I built a beautiful, modest life together, and our world became complete when our son, Leo, was born. Leo was the light of our lives, an incredibly sweet, sensitive boy who looked at the world with so much wonder. For years, we kept our distance from my mother, only seeing her at mandatory family holidays where she would spend the entire time making passive-aggressive comments about our clothes, our jobs, and our small starter home. But then, tragedy struck our family. A year ago, David was killed in a horrific accident on a construction site. My entire world shattered into a million pieces. I lost my husband, my best friend, and the co-captain of my life, and Leo lost his hero. The grief was suffocating, but the financial aftermath was a whole different beast. David's business partners turned out to be completely dishonest, tying up his insurance and company assets in legal red tape that I couldn't afford to fight while drowning in sorrow. Within months, I was struggling to pay the mortgage on our house, working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table for Leo, and completely burning myself out. Seeing me vulnerable was exactly what Eleanor had been waiting for her entire life. She swooped in like a vulture masquerading as a savior. She owned a beautiful, large, 3-bedroom townhouse that she usually rented out to high-income tenants, but it happened to be vacant at the time. She came to me with tears in her eyes, pretending to be the grieving, supportive grandmother, and offered to let Leo and me move into the townhouse rent-free for a year so I could get back on my feet, clear my debts, and find a stable routine. I was hesitant because I knew her history, but I was also desperate. I looked at my traumatized, grieving son and thought that having a stable, nice place to live without the crushing weight of a mortgage would give him the peace he needed. So I swallowed my pride, thanked her profusely, and we moved in. That was the biggest mistake of my life. The moment the last box was unpacked, the trap snapped shut. Eleanor didn't see this as an act of charity. She saw it as the ultimate leverage. Suddenly, she owned me, and she made sure I knew it every single day. She insisted on having a key to the townhouse, and she would use it constantly, barging in unannounced at 7 in the morning or 10 at night, inspecting the counters for dust, looking through my fridge, and criticizing how I was raising Leo. If I tried to set a boundary, she would instantly remind me whose roof was over my head and how quickly she could find a paying tenant to replace us. I swallowed the humiliation every day because I needed to save money for Leo's future. I worked my regular office job during the day and took on freelance bookkeeping clients at night, often sleeping only 4 hours a night. Leo was doing so well in his new school, and he loved the neighborhood. So I told myself I could survive Eleanor's toxicity for just a few more months until my savings were secure. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday, and I was stuck at work late because of an emergency meeting. I had arranged for Eleanor to pick Leo up from his after-school program and watch him at the townhouse for just 2 hours until I got home. I felt uneasy about it, but it was my only option. As I was driving home, my phone rang. It was my neighbor, Sarah, who lived next door to the townhouse. Her voice was frantic and upset. She told me I needed to get home immediately because something terrible was happening, and Leo was sitting outside on the steps crying. My heart dropped into my stomach. I slammed on the gas, running a yellow light, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When I turned down the street and pulled into the driveway, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Leo was sitting on the cold concrete steps, hugging his teddy bear, sobbing so hard his shoulders were shaking. Next to him were 3 large trash bags filled with his clothes and toys, and my own suitcase. I threw the car into park, bolted out of the driver's seat, and fell to my knees in front of him, pulling him into my arms. He was shaking violently, gasping for air between sobs. I held him tight, rubbing his back, asking him what happened. Through his tears, he looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes and said words that will be burned into my brain until the day I die. He said, "Grandma came in and started throwing our stuff in bags. She told me that you're ungrateful freeloaders and that we don't belong here anymore. She looked right at me and said, 'You're homeless now, Leo. Go wait outside for your mother to come take you away.'" Just as he finished saying that, the front door of the townhouse opened, and a leaner stepped out, looking completely cold, smug, and utterly remorseless. She crossed her arms, looked down her nose at us, and said that she had found a corporate tenant willing to pay double the market rent starting next week, and since I had a slight attitude with her on the phone the previous day about her unannounced visits, she decided she was done playing nice. She told me we had until midnight to get the rest of our things out, or she would throw them in the dumpster. I stood up slowly, looking at this woman who was supposed to be my mother, who had just psychologically traumatized an 8-year-old grieving boy just to flex her power and make a few extra bucks. Something inside me snapped. But it wasn't an explosion of anger. It was a freezing, absolute clarity. I realized that arguing, screaming, or crying would give her exactly what she wanted. She wanted to see me beg. She wanted to see me broken. So I looked her dead in the eyes, completely expressionless, and just said, "Okay." Alina actually looked startled for a split second. She expected a fight, she expected tears, she expected me to plead for Leo's sake, but I just repeated it. "Okay." I helped Leo into the car, loaded the trash bags into the trunk, and drove away without looking back, leaving her standing on the porch looking confused. So that is the unbelievable situation I found myself in, standing on the street with my traumatized child and our life packed into trash bags, all because of my own mother's malice. I had to make a choice right then and there about how to respond to this level of cruelty. Before I tell you the absolute madness of what happened next and how I turned the tables on her completely, I want you to pause right now and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have screamed at her? Would you have cut her off quietly? Or would you have planned something bigger? Let me know, because what I did next changed everything. We drove straight to a local hotel for the night. Once Leo was settled in with a warm meal and his favorite cartoon, finally feeling safe and falling into a deep sleep, I sat at the small desk in the hotel room and went to work. What Alina didn't realize when she decided to play this game with me was 2 very important things. First, because I had been handling her personal taxes and some of her real estate bookkeeping as a favor for the past 2 years, I knew every single one of her financial secrets. Second, David's estate and insurance money had actually cleared into my account 2 weeks prior, a massive 6-figure sum that I had kept entirely secret from her because I wanted to surprise Leo with a house of our own when the time was right. I wasn't broke anymore. I was actually financially secure, but I had stayed in that townhouse just to finish out the school semester. Alina had 0 leverage over me, and she didn't even know it. I spent the entire night compiling files. I had full access to her financial records, and I knew for a fact that she had been illegally underreporting the rental income on her other properties for years, hiding cash payments, and writing off completely personal, luxury expenses as business deductions for her real estate LLC. It wasn't just a minor mistake. It was blatant, systematic tax fraud amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. I organized everything into a neat, undeniable digital folder. Next, I called a real estate agent friend of mine at midnight, leaving a voicemail that I was ready to buy a house immediately in cash. By the next morning, my plan was in full motion. I officially submitted an anonymous, fully documented whistleblower report to the IRS, complete with bank statements, tax returns, and ledger sheets proving Alina's fraud. I knew the IRS took these kinds of clear-cut cases extremely seriously, especially when handed to them on a silver platter with a bow on top. But I wasn't done yet. I also contacted the local housing authority and the tenant union. In our city, evicting someone without a formal, written 30-day notice, even if they aren't paying rent, is highly illegal, especially when a minor is involved. It constitutes an illegal self-help lockout. I filed a formal complaint against her property management company, detailing how she had thrown an 8-year-old child out onto the street and locked us out without a single court order or legal notice. While the wheels of bureaucracy were turning, I took Leo house hunting. With the insurance money ready, I found a beautiful, cozy 3-bedroom home with a huge backyard just 10 minutes away from his school. The sellers were looking for a quick close, and since I was offering the full asking price in cash with no contingencies, they accepted within hours. We signed the paperwork, and within 4 days, Leo and I were holding the keys to our actual, permanent home. On the 5th day after she kicked us out, the dominoes began to fall on Alina, and they fell with catastrophic force. I was sitting in my brand-new living room, watching Leo happily play with our neighbor's dog in the backyard, when my phone started blowing up. It was Alina. She called me over 20 times, but I let it go to voicemail every single time. Finally, she sent a barrage of frantic text messages, demanding that I answer her immediately. When I finally decided to pick up her next call, her voice was completely unrecognizable. The smug, arrogant tone was entirely gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic and hysteria. She screamed that the IRS had just frozen her primary business bank accounts and had served her with a formal audit notice for the past 5 years. She said her accountant told her she was looking at massive back taxes, astronomical penalties, and potentially criminal charges if she couldn't explain the discrepancies. On top of that, because of the housing authority complaint I filed, her corporate tenant had caught wind of the illegal lockout and the pending legal investigation into the property. The corporation immediately backed out of the lease agreement, citing a clause about legal compliance, leaving her townhouse completely vacant and unrentable while the city investigated her for illegal eviction practices. She was facing fines from the city, a massive tax bill that could bankrupt her, and her reputation in her elite social circles was completely ruined. She wept into the phone, begging me to help her, asking if I could look through her books to find a way out, and asking where I was staying so she could come apologize to Leo. I listened to her sob for a solid minute, enjoying the absolute poetic justice of the moment. When she finally paused to breathe, I kept my voice completely calm, cold, and steady. I told her that I was the one who reported her to the IRS. I told her that I was the one who blocked her corporate lease, and I told her that she would never, ever see or speak to my son again. I finished by saying, "You told my son he was homeless. Now you're about to lose everything you own, okay?" And I hung up the phone. It has been several months since that day, and the aftermath has been total devastation for Alina. She had to liquidate 2 of her rental properties at a massive loss just to pay off the IRS penalties and back taxes to avoid jail time. Her credit is destroyed, her status is gone, and she is currently living in that very same townhouse, completely isolated and miserable, unable to afford her previous luxury lifestyle. My extended family tried to reach out to me, calling me heartless for ruining my own mother's life. But the moment I sent them the audio recording of Leo crying on the porch explaining what she did to him, they all went dead silent. Nobody defends her anymore. As for Leo and me, we are thriving. Our new home is filled with laughter, love, and the memory of David. Leo is doing amazing in school. His smile has completely returned, and he feels safe knowing that nobody can ever throw him out of his home again. We have cut Alina out of our lives completely, erasing her like a bad dream. Looking back on this entire nightmare, I realize that the greatest lesson I learned is that toxic people will always use your kindness and vulnerability as a weapon against you. But the moment you stop reacting to their drama and instead use logic, boundaries, and consequences, their entire illusion of power crumbles to dust. I protected my son, I honored my husband's legacy, and I built a secure fortress for our future out of the ashes of her cruelty. If you made it this far, and you think I did the right thing by taking away everything she used to hurt us, please hit that like button to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story of justice and sweet revenge. And please share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I read every single one of them. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all in the next story.